Peace to Heru Radio. How y'all doing? I'm your host, Aseer the Tears. You know me. Your co-host, I'm in there 10,000 years or more. Everybody, what's up? Hope everything has been well. We broadcasting live from Miami. Thank you to all of those people who came out to the events that we had when we was in New York. It went very, very well. Twa Ashe to that, as well as everybody else that basically came through and then also sent, well wishes and stuff like that. That was really big. One thing I find in doing this type of work is that a lot of times when it comes to how you, because it has never been anything like this in our past per se, you know what I'm saying? This is the first time, I think, in history that there's been a concerted effort of metaphysically conscious beings who are striving to enhance their intellect through spiritual upliftment, as well as cultural significance and identity. And because we're the first ones, I think, in our quote-unquote history who have really collectively taken this instance on, we find ourselves a lot of times on the outs of what people perceive society and things like that to be. And in the process of that, one thing that we all experience is a certain degree of isolation, or what people perceive as isolation, which really starts to kick in once you start to build on the fact that you can feel sometimes more isolated around conscious people. Sometimes the more conscious a person is, the more isolating the energy becomes, you know what I'm saying? So I'm seeing all of this kind of for what it is now, and in the process of that, also peeping game at how that isolationist perspective can be exploited and almost become a crutch for certain people or certain ideas basically to come about. Pursuing this thing because, like I said, it is so new to a degree and it is so fresh, and there hasn't been anyone, I think, collectively in our historical significance taking this time to put all these pieces back together and decode. Like within the past 10 years, you've seen so much decoding going on that I think that a lot of us are starting to become desensitized to it, which again itself is a problem. One, because you don't want to become too desensitized to something that's actually saving your life. And two, you don't want to get so obsessed with it that you wind up seeing, enemies that aren't really there either. So there's a fine line between awareness and paranoia that people haven't really understood. But paranoia itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It can become, paranoia is basically just an excessive expression of caution. You know what I'm saying? It's an excessive way of being cautious. And unfortunately, some of us are not cautious enough when it comes to who and what we're disseminating our energy to and who it is we're building with. Because we think because this person is talking this consciousness shit or whatever that they all on the same thing, and that's not true. But we first learned this through our families as an identifying marker or factor by you and I, or people like us being the quote-unquote black sheep or outcast of the family. It creates that backlash in us that makes us feel like we're always going to be on what people perceive as the fringe of society and reality itself. And no doubt, a lot of us are. But consistently speaking, we have always, anytime that you are a trailblazer or somebody that's actually creative and doing things in this world outside of what, the co-signers believe you should be doing, you always going to have to stand up and sometimes stand strong for Dolo. Because again, like I said on the show before, when God sends somebody, when devil sends somebody, he sent a legion of people. You know what I mean? When God sends somebody, he sent like 2 or 3 people. You know what I'm saying? But that one person, you know what I'm saying, is way, like for instance, those baby fathers who had their children stolen from them, like me. It's like the baby can be with any and everybody else in the world except you. Now, what that says is it's kind of like when, like clowns in the movement will create like lists. Niggas always, agents and these type of people always love lists. They always like making up like little like dossiers on like Like, you remember when you was in school, you know what I mean, grade school, you know what I mean, real young, middle school, we used to make lists of, like, who was the best in the class, who was the fastest, who was the this, who was the that. Well, niggas don't really grow out of that. And so you have people, you know what I mean, always making lists about who's doing this and who's doing that in the community or whatever. So based on those lists, what you got to understand is that all of that really is to really focus on the people that don't make the list. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And these things are done to bring about an egotistic reaction out of, you know, people or whatever. But what you got to understand is, man, when you are not really contributing, like, major mental strides or what I would perceive as, I don't want to use that word, progressive, but relevant and spiritually significant information, if you're not really producing that right now, then really most of the niggas is just talking. So whenever things like that happen, or when instances like that are put out, what amazes me is that there is a group of people who will support stuff like that, that form of, again, isolationist, exclusionary, you know what I mean, us against them type of mentality, when really we got into this thing to break away from that, at least I thought. So I bring this to you, brothers and sisters, basically to illustrate the fact that regardless of how much you raise your vibration, that there's always going to be a certain degree of low vibrational entities always picking at your heels. And what you got to always remember is that they're picking at your heels like that because there's an aspect of you, of them, that doesn't want you to leave them behind. You understand? There's a huge concerted effort now of people who are coming up who spiritually are leaps and bounds ahead of some of the main people that's coming before you actually speaking and acting like they got right knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And what your job is as the listener, as the people, as the reason, the energy or the spirit of reason, it is your job to discern what is real from what isn't. Who is putting out real information to better and uplift me, and then who isn't, who is doing the opposite. Is the information that I am focused on helping me, or is it consuming aspects of my life? I really can't think about doing anything else. That's the case. Then you are kind of involved in a situation where you are kind of at odds with what it is you came into this knowledge for. And that is a place where you will become vulnerable. And that is a place where people would strive to use energy like that, or specifically energy coming from that perspective against you. So you have to hold strong to what your initial intent was to come into this thing, man, so that way you don't ever be in situations where you wind up being taken advantage of or allowing yourself to be taken advantage of by making excuses for other people. Hey, mama, how you doing? Or by making excuses for other people. So this is how things wind up becoming gross or big, you know what I mean, bigger than they need to be, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's beyond, you know, so I don't want you to think that I'm talking about like just like the new buzzword in this generation is haters and stuff like that. But see, when I was coming up, like you couldn't do what other people did. You know what I mean? Because people would step to you and be like, yo, you biting off of so-and-so. Or, yo, you can't say that because so-and-so said that. You know what I'm saying? But what happened was once the creativity started dying, that's why they killed Tupac and Biggie on you, because creatively speaking, they represented both sides of the same polarity that was basically offered up by the same demon. So when they were gone, if you notice, that's when the term hater started really coming up to the whole forefront of the so-called black lexicon, you know what I mean? That's when niggas started really going hard with, you know what I mean, remaking songs, not even remaking songs, just basically playing the whole song over and all of that, you know what I'm saying? So the term hater became a blanket term as a means to protect non-creative people from those people who are creative and who know that they bite. You understand what I'm saying? So hater became a thing, whereas if I came out and said that you biting now I'm a hater. So now the term bite, and now the term hater now rises above the term biting, when really biting is synonymous to plagiarism, right? But we live in the era of new plagiarism or conscious plagiarism, where niggas will basically get a whole bunch of tapes or get a whole bunch of books or get a whole bunch of transcripts from different things and then try to compile an entire lecture or an entire book or an entire concept or some sort of fake tour or something to bring everybody galvanized and everybody hype about shit that they don't already heard before. But again, I'm not here to bash none of these niggas at the same time, because keep it real with you, the people are supporting them. There's people who are supporting these type of people. And I'm not just talking about in the conscious community. I don't want you to think that I'm just focusing on that. I'm talking about on a global level now as well. You know what I mean? You have people who are specifically in your community to deter you from your creativity, because your creativity is what's synonymous, is what links you up with the creative energies of the Most High. You understand? So your creative energies that are coming from the Most High is basically tied up into how creative or less creative you are. The less creative you are, the more devilish you'll get into. The more creative you are, the more into godliness you stay. You understand? Because the God that we, in a sense, are the archetypes of, are the representations of, is a God of creativity, not destruction. So therefore, the more creative you are, the more you're going to have biters coming around you and trying to throw other people off of you, because they want to turn people off from you before other people get turned on to you, because they feel that what you're doing is too heavy for them, and that people, once they see you doing it, they ain't going to want to fuck with what they doing. And that's true. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, this is the era where facts, it's the era where whack people and lanes, or what we call squares or cornballs, can really like come off and like really win. You don't believe me? Look at Drake. I'm just using him again as an example that everybody understands and knows what I'm talking about. He's an archetype of the corny nigga who just basically is winning now because he has some talent. One, he's creative. Two, but because he's corny, you understand? He's a corny dude. But at the same token, the cornier the dude now is, the more the machine can take and start to flip it and bounce it and make these corny niggas look cool. The same way that Monsanto can take a piece of shit off the floor and mold it into a patty and spray the derivative of the Zyklon B gas that they left over from the Nazi period, and is able to flip it and bounce it and make that piece of shit smell like a hamburger, is the same way that they are mass-producing creativity for you to ingest the same way. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Monsanto website, and they have this thing, I forget the name of the actual gas, but it's something that they actually can spray on deteriorated and decrepit food to make it smell like the most freshest food in ink. So they could take literally a piece of crap and put this spray on it and make it smell and taste like a damn hamburger, but it's still a piece of crap, you understand? So I look at that as an allegory for the society that we find ourselves in to this day, right now, you understand? So there was a guy named Marcus Tullius Cicero, and he was a philosopher. And one of the things he said that was interesting was that there is no more important knowledge to a people than their history and culture. If they do not know this, then they are lost in the world. So, again, what this says then, or going back to what this philosopher is saying, is that most of the things that we are talking about as a concerted form of creative or spiritual energy actually is not. Most of the stuff that you think that you're doing to really move ahead is actually something to bind you in and to waste your time. Examples of this. One example of this is, for instance, there was a, like, as much as you have people that's out there supporting you, you have to remember that we as original people forget that other people put roots on us, and there's ancestral duckies and things like that that we got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And these are the things that's stepping in the way of you and your happiness. And that most of the things that you equate with happiness are really things that don't materialize here if not through you or if not through a feeling. You understand how you feel about something. So I could tell you a woman that I love her, but unless she feels that I love her, then she's not going to believe me. You understand? A woman, by the same thing, could tell me that she loved me, but unless I really feel that and I actually see elements of that, then I'm not going to feel totally secure with her. You understand? So in that, just because, let's put it like this, busyness does not equate accomplishment. Let me say it again. Just because you're busy doing something don't mean that you're accomplishing anything. You understand? So you could be busy doing a lot of paperwork. You could be busy doing a lot of interviews. You could be busy doing a lot of different things. But if that busy work does not equate into accomplishment, then really what you're engaging, what you're busy in is distraction. And we are distracting ourselves more than we really think we are. You understand? Yet, because we live in a false flag society, you understand, we have to understand that most of the things that are happening basically to keep everybody away. So within any given culture, you have culture, folklore, myths, traditions, folk rituals, folk mysticism, and legendary history. Okay? So within that now, that's basically, we can call that a creative matrix. Because legendary history or mythic history is the type of history that can't necessarily be qualified or verified, yet has been around so long that it's taken as true. Right? Folklore is a type of history that has developed out of a certain community based upon the different aspects and the different migratory patterns of that community. So folklore, the difference between a folklore and a myth would be something like Atlantis, right? So we know that that is a place that actually existed, but in terms of physical representation and evidence, we only have residual elements that we can put together and hypothesize actually are connected to or came from Atlantis, right? So that's a mythic history. A folklore history is something like John Henry, the steel driving man, who basically, beat the train by one spoke but then died in the terms of what he was striving to do. But again, John Henry is a folklore story, but it's also an allegorical folklore story that deals. Last time I saw was in the bed. You want to do the thing, and I'll go. So, long story short, it's become a transitional way of people kind of making sense of the industrialized world that we find ourselves in now. You know what I'm saying? The industrialization or the Industrial Revolution, as we would call to it, that was led into the modern era by, quote-unquote, the captains of industry, a.k.a. the Collins family, the Rothschilds, the Warburgs, the Percys, the Witherspoons, the Scherfs, all of the families. Both pre-World War II and post-World War II, because the pre-World War II families that were coming into existence were basically remnant families that had been decimated from World War I, which again was a war to totally destabilize the indigenous cultures of the world and get rid of the so-called black nobility, and specifically Europa, as Europa was going to be redrawn up into Europe, and then in the process of that be redistributed in terms of its position in the world. And then after that, post-World War II, when these so-called countries had now been re-ratified, new boundary lines have been drawn, and now we went from a time of empires, kingdoms, dominions to nations, countries, and states. We are now into what's called the technocracy, which is basically corporatized versions of hyper corporations. You know what I'm saying? Which basically leads into a era of non-human contact. Non-human contact is when human beings are used basically as finger puppets by their government or members of their government to elicit certain psychological and spiritual responses out of the mass populace. These are aspects, like I said, that are usually based upon things like folklore, whatever. So another instance of this would be how a lot of situations are built from that. Because as we have culture on the outside of the ring, if you could imagine this as almost like a ring, there was a brother named Muata Ashby. I believe the brother's still around, but he wrote a great book called African Dionysus. And in this book, he describes some of these things. So if you can imagine a wheel within a wheel within a wheel within a wheel, and you imagine the term culture on the outside of that wheel, and then inside of that you have folklores, myths, and traditions, and then in another aspect of the wheel you have folk rituals, and then in another aspect of the wheel you have folk mysticism, and then in another aspect, the deeper aspect of the wheel, you have the griotism. This is the culture. This is how we have perpetuated our culture throughout the world. You understand? When we talk about culture, really we need to be talking about culture freedom, which is a way of life. You know what I'm saying? How one lives their life, how one manifests and chooses to manifest that life in the physical world. Yet, we also exist in a time of intense theology, right? So, according to Coyle's Masonic Dictionary, it says theology is the study of the nature of God, religious truth, rational inquiry into religious questions, right? Now, do the knowledge to that. It is the study of the nature of God, right, as they are coining it, and religious truth, right? So what that says to me is that God is different than religious truth, number one. Number two, then, it says rational inquiry into religious questions. So when you ask Pastor Bigfoot or whoever, why is it that I got to do 100% tithing, meaning I got to give all of my assets to the mega church that feeds over 30,000 people? See, they're dealing from the perspective of quantity over quality. You understand? To have 30,000 people coming in with different things expecting healing is great. However, if you're giving these same 30,000 people, again, rituals where they are basically thinking that they're one thing and really they practice something totally different. Like, for instance, when they did the ritual where they crowned Eddie Long king, right? That was specifically a Hebrew ritual, right? A Hebrew ritual that is done to those who are about to ascend the throne or about to take over the kingdom from the line of David and Solomon. So when this dude engaged in that, remember, these people in the megachurch, these black people, is believing that they are Christians. But in the process of that, the white bishop comes and basically creates not only a Hebrew, a Jewish mystical ritual on them, but the fact that the same priest is also a Scottish Rite Mason brings the whole Scottish Rite aspect, satanic Lucifer thing, into the same thing. So what we got to do the knowledge to then is that there are different aspects of, again, ritual and folk that's being flipped on our people, one over the other, and our people still not really paying attention to how this is affecting them. Not only how it's affecting them, but how it's creating situations in their community to purposely confuse them. Okay? So when we get into things like comparative mythology, right, we're dealing with an aspect of finding the similarities within the mythologies of the world and how all the mythologies of the world basically come up with the same story. You know what I'm saying? And that these mythological stories are basically intrinsic needs for you to act. They are intrinsic vitamins almost for the brain that allows the brain to start to accumulate a certain awareness of itself. You know what I'm saying? So one of the biggest things to get into right now is the ability of writing your own story. When people in my thing talk about like people when we do the online classes, which we will start this Wednesday. Thank you everybody for hollering at us last Wednesday, but we got in a little too late, and the internet was kind of shut down. So inshallah, we'll be ready to rock Wednesday at 9 o'clock, so everybody can holler at me directly, and we can go in again. But specifically speaking, when you get into aspects of comparative mythology, what you start to realize is that everybody on the planet is basically agreeing that your story is the dominant story. And your story basically is the story, again, of creation. You understand? So, ritualistically speaking, as we get into some of the things that are doing to throw off, one of the biggest rituals they got running right now is this whole Olympics thing. You know what I mean? But again, this Olympics is more than just their ritual. It's a way of them creating a mythos to spread to the rest of the story. Because when you watch the opening ritual, the opening, ceremonies of whatever the game was, it was drastically different from the Chinese opening ritual of their Olympics. If you remember with the Chinese Olympics, when they opened it up, everything was so uniform. That was basically a means to show you. Is it fine? Okay. That ritual was no sound.
They usually don't reconnect you. I'm glad we're back on. I just ended the call because I heard in the chat room there was no sound, but please give us a minute because there was sound. I'm listening to my chat room. So, okay, at least we got back on, y'all.
Yeah, so the money. There's another aspect of that now that they flipped on you or flipped on everybody where everything started kind of, there was a section in the ritual that you noticed where right when they dropped the fake queen out the plane, which was an allegory for throwing mama. Remember that movie, Throw Mama from the Train? There's an allegory, what they call a metaphoric response, basically saying that we jumping out the window on this one. We going all out. And then to have her come through being escorted by Daniel Craig, who again is the new 007, that is a ritual going all the way back to that we spoke about, going back to Elizabeth II, whose astrologer and head of her intelligence at the time, code name was 007, and his real name is John D. He actually was the guy who dealt with a lot of her astrology as well as the occult aspect of that. So just like you had Elizabeth in the late 1700s with her 007 walking down for the Jubilee or whatever, the same way now in our time you have the same type of Elizabeth walking down with their version of 007, who, by the way, is about to play Lucifer in the movie, Lucifer. He is the Nazi James Bond, you know what I'm saying? Because he's a straight killer. Whereas the old James Bonds that we used to watch had a license to kill, no doubt. But he wasn't as aggressive in the whole killing approach, per se. Which also shows you, again, allegorically, symbolically, that they're taking it up a notch in terms of their actual determination in this whole so-called world catastrophe that's basically here. That type of pageantry that you saw in that ritual is another version of mythology, but I would refer to it as psychomythology. And the psychomythology is basically taking mystical aspects of one's old root culture and basically turning the symbols on their head in an inverted way to procure a certain engendering response out of the populace. This is the same pageantry that goes on in those evangelistic snake pit churches where they have the guys getting bit by the snakes and all that all the time. It's the same intent. The same type of energy being generated. So the mystical teaching that holds that the essence of creation and everything in it for each individual, right, whether they be human or animal or whatever, is a transcendental experience, meaning that it transcends the ordinary bounds of what we would perceive as modern or mental application. These applications, as applied to you in a spiritual sense, are the things that help you discern what we perceive as right and wrong. But right and wrong are really just polarity. Polarities that in a reptilian culture are then drawn to extremes. See, only reptilian culture deals in heavy extremes like that. And when I say reptilian culture, I'm talking about those people who are functioning, who think they're functioning from the higher resonances of the brain, when really they're functioning from the higher resonances of the reptilian brain. This is why Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him, referred to these people as the 85%, but he also referred to them as poison animal eaters, because they're functioning from a poison animalistic center of the brain and subsisting on that. Yet Elijah Muhammad, just like Noble Joe Ali, just like the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, just like Clarence 13X, just like Khalid Muhammad, just like a lot of these people have almost become myths to those of us that have come after. Because instead of us engendering what this individual left for us to discern as individual souls, which then add to the collective whole, we are taking on face value what it is these people were in, let's say, a only public sense. But guess what? Just because you're conscious don't mean that you have to be spiritual. Just because you spiritual don't mean you have to be conscious. That's the whole play on third density. Everything is askew here. Everything has a means of communication that can mean something else. Because we live in a clandestine society where nothing is in the open. We are moving into a quote-unquote open society, which to the Illuminists means something totally different than to, one of us saying what we mean when we say a society is open. They have a ritual form of programming that comes out of the Pentagon, who is referred to as, that they refer to as open happiness. Another way of saying this in terms of government in dealing with its people is a form of something they refer to as transparency. But remember, the government always speaks in doublespeak. So when they say that they're being transparent, what they're saying is that they're going to make you transparent, and they're going to become more concealed. So when they say open happiness, that is for everyone to open up, let's say, the reasoning centers of their mind or brain, and then be happy with the exposure of that to everybody and everything else. Haven't you noticed that the more new phones come out, that they have all of these new devices and new apps now to make you more accessible, to make your quote-unquote network even bigger and bigger? It's going to get to a point where when you go to your phone, you ain't going to basically be on the phone. You're going to have to, you know what I'm saying, you're going to have to just jump into whatever conversation is on because they're already going to be taking place. People don't know. There's a phenomenon that started that predates radio, referred to as number stations. And number stations are these, well, the guy Marconi, this is a history thing now. There's a guy named Marconi who allegedly was the guy who created the radio. And when he created the radio or was able to get the first radio frequency, the first thing he picked up was somebody saying numbers. So this is the first time that in modern times, I would say, that historically speaking, somebody is actually creating a device now. We're talking about in the 30s, I believe. Somebody's making a device now in Western society that was able to actually transmit radio wave communication via electrical sound waves, right? And so the first guy who turns on the radio, who creates it, this guy Marconi, turns the thing on, and as soon as instead of hearing static, he hears somebody saying numbers, 13, 36, 42, 49, 38. So this phenomenon, they're trying to find out where they come from, and nobody knows where these things are coming from. So people who are into what they call ham radio stations, they have clubs or groups who study and try to pick up what frequency some of these number stations are coming from, and they're trying to figure out what the codes are, right? So what this means is that prior to 1930, there was some sort of radio communications going on where somebody was speaking numbers. Also, the other thing is the guy who was speaking in numbers was speaking in an African accent. So they also, since then, come in different accents, Mexican, French or whatever, but the very first one they found or picked up on or that was already in was, again, coming from, I guess, somebody in Africa or a number station in Africa or somebody reciting numbers from whatever. So for the longest, the government has been putting massive millions of dollars into figuring out where these things are coming from and what it is, and nobody really knows. There's something in the emerald tablets referred to as the numbers of time. And basically, it's the same as the I Ching in terms of the numerical system, or the Vicar beads, or the abacus, or anything like that people are using to equate numerical value to specific locations. What I believe that they are actually coordinates to different places, because then when you look at them in terms of longitude or latitude, they'll end up like, a garage on 6th Street in Wyoming, and then a McDonald's in, Pittsburgh, or a National Library in Washington, right? When you put them in terms of context, sometimes longitude, latitude. But what that would say to me would be, if these things have been going on from the beginning of creation, these are basically the access codes or number codes that basically bind you into accessing where some of the key components of whatever may exist at or may be buried under. You know what I'm saying? I bring that all up to say that these were listed in what they call Fibonacci numbers, as well as what we call numbers in the hood when people, play numbers. You know what I'm saying? These numbers that everybody is playing, lotto, all of these things, are really the numbers that keep most of the physical reality itself functioning. And these number stations, for those people who, get into that, are trying to figure out exactly where are the prime meridian points or prime number locations where some of these numbers may have originated. That being said, these sinkholes that you see opening up all over the place, I believe are connected to those in the sense that instead of being, what's interesting is that most of these sinkholes are symmetrical, perfectly symmetrical, you know what I'm saying? To the point where some of them that were being found, they were actually bashing the sides out a little bit to make them look more, unperfect. So what I think is going on with those are those basically are aspects of what we people consider wormholes or black holes, basically opening up all over the place due to the heavy spiritual amplification that's going on in all of us. And in the process of that, some of these locations correspond to some of the longitude, latitude coordinates of some of the numbers that was coming out of some of these number stations that nobody knows come from. So remember, if you ever hear anybody talk about number stations in the whole thing now, and this is really some sort of supreme mathematics, you heard it here first. Because the greater, if we extrapolate this now to a greater perspective, what we're now looking at is being able to basically predict where these holes, what they're calling sinkholes, what I'm calling wormholes, are going to be opening up. And in the process of that, you know what I mean, the whatever energy that exists within that dark matter energy in that may be a portal or way into, you know what I mean, whatever alternate or whatever reality, because this is the new thing now. If you notice, they've been pushing a lot of alternate reality stuff. So a lot of these numbers, especially when you start dealing with it from the supreme mathematic perspective, meaning that 1 is knowledge, 2 is wisdom, 3 is understanding, 4 is culture, freedom, 5 is power, 6 is Gumar's the bar, 8 is build and destroy, 9 is born, 10 is cipher, 11 is knowledge, all being born wisdom, 12 is knowledge, wisdom, all being born to understanding, so forth and so on. That means that you are somebody who does not have to subtract or divide to get one number. You add on to get one. You understand? That means that you are automatically the prime number or the optimist prime number in whatever is actualizing itself in the given moment of whatever given spectrum we're in. So, like I said, these holes, you know what I mean, may also show that there's some sort of strain going on in between the spherical dimensions, between what we perceive as universe A, which is where we are right now, in universe B. So just as there's an alternate Earth where, people are trying to, are not people, maybe they're plants or whatever, there's an alternate version of you in all of these places. Yet all of these aspects of you are united in the atom, which was depicted by Akhenaten. That's why a lot of people don't like him, because he was the one to first reveal the whole concept of what Western occultists refer to as the oversoul, meaning the ultimate you with all of the different versions of you dangling from it, the way tentacles was dangled from an octopus, which is why the octopus is used or was used by H.P. Lovecraft in the Call of Cthulhu, in the Cthulhu mysticism, as a symbol of the primordial essence of the pre-Adamite. which again is the symbolic representation of the original man existing in, in his ultra pristine state. Where he is both the giver and taker of life. These were seen as the entities bound in the crystal shard in space in Hellboy 1. So, Yggdrasil, which is the Asgardian tree of life, is the access point, or the tree of life, or the great tree that everybody goes up and down or eats from as they exist in the as they exist in the garden, which is creation. So a lot of the quote-unquote dark black magic or white magic that is being practiced is really not even the real thing. It's receiving real results, but those results are always affected by the intent of the magician. So those people who are running the numbers to power these death computers that calculate how many people they could kill and get away with are the same ones who are now trying to get you to alter your own genetics, which would then allow them to add on to that alteration. Yeah, I was just about to get into that, how they use the octopus in the closing ceremony, which again is a symbol again of Cthulhu. H.P. Lovecraft, being in Brooklyn, but he was consecrated in the Great Lodge in England, showing affiliation and also showing the energy of what it is they're getting into. The Cthulhu mythos is actually based on another mythos that comes out of a grimoire called the Necronomicon. And those people who read the Necronomicon, or for those people who haven't, is basically about a Moor named Akagaret, who basically goes into dark matter and communes and almost becomes a host body for the dark matter entities that he meets, the primary one being Cthulhu, which is really another version of Poseidon, and which is really another version of Aesir, or the Roman Neptune, which then is a symbol of Pisces, which then represents the intuitive nature or the passive nature of man in his quest to navigate the waters of his own emotions.
Peace, y'all. What's going on? Thank you for getting us home safely, ancestors, and for returning us back to Miami. I wanted to thank everyone that was in Brooklyn and just came out and showed their support through rain and through sun. I wanted to really just extend a gratitude and thanks to our family that always come through. It's like Creator has really taught me that it's not about the mass and the numbers, but about the content. And when you have content, you always gain wealth and riches. So I appreciate everyone coming out to even the quick little lectures we had over the weekend, putting the tape together tonight and tomorrow, and I'm finishing it up, so it'll be available on our website, which is aseertheduketeers.com. And I also wanted to, we tried to get the album on iTunes, but there was a little setback in the cover art. You can't have certain words on your art cover, so it's taking a little longer than we thought, but anything to bring immediate sometimes takes a little longer. So I wanted to let people know that they can still listen and purchase the album. We have copies that were printed up really well, professionally mastered, and that's going to be on sale on our website tomorrow at aseerthedukeoftears.com, as well as through www.darkskull418.com. And I, as an artist, really just want to put it out there because I don't have the opportunities to market as much as I would like sometimes. I really want to ask people to please support the album. I put a lot of energy on this one, and it just took a little getting away from the everyday rigmarole, running the rut, to have the creative space to write some songs that really meant something to me. And, you know, we're really working on the flow, and it's been great. So I hope that you guys enjoy the music. There's 13 new tracks that Aseer and I did together. And on some whole next level kindred shit, I want to give thanks to the Creator for allowing us to have the space and the time to write some stuff that meant a lot to us, that was definitely inspired by the book. And talking about all that, I also wanted to reveal just a little of some, you know, certain stuff that I sometimes go through and certain meditations that I have. But my recent one was of this weekend. I finally saw Hidden Colors, the movie Hidden Colors that everybody was talking about, the movie, whatever. And it was great. It was really informative, and it was really well recorded and well taped. And I saw it on a whole nother level. You know, I always have my own private moments. And I was like, wow, you know, I was taking a shower, and I was like, it was really great to see everyone that spoke on Moorish history and connected dots. But as someone who has been inspired by a lot of the greats like Bobby Hemmett and Phil Valentine and Booker T. Coleman and Ivan Van Sertima and Jose Pimenta Bay and all of the greats that have, Steve Freemanell, God bless. I really find it interesting when certain energy is left out. You know, I found it very funny that you'd have certain, I guess you would call scholars, speak on Moorish history that have really no idea that much of what they're talking about. But, you know, key little phrases and key little, you know, things to say, I guess, come off really good. And I'm not going to draw anybody out in specificity because that would be the energy so much. Like, yo, who you trying to blow up? And it was to say that it was all good. But on some ancestral energy shit, I really was taking a shower, and I was like, you know, I see why there's a lot of controversy around this. And, you know, a girlfriend of mine who always keeps me in the loop as to what's going on, shout out to Crystal, love you, sister, she really keeps me in the loop of like, oh, no, you didn't hear it in colors, and you got to see it. So I finally got this copy and watched it, and I was talking to her, and I was like, you know, it's really funny that there's contemporaries in it, and Aseer wasn't, you know, asked to speak in it. I said, and you know, it's a blessing in disguise because the Creator isn't going to open up energy or space for you to work in alliance with anything if it's not meant to be. But, you know, on a whole nother energy, I was like, you know, Crystal, that's probably why it's not doing well. I said, you can't do no goddamn contemporary Moorish history tape without my young brother Aseer, who is turning 40 this year, but is still young. I said, you know, the object of knowledge is to connect dots and to cross I's and dot I's and cross T's. And what I'm so always in awe of Aseer, even in having the opportunity to watch him this past weekend in New York, finally was able to have his uncle, you know, hold him down. Thank you, Shawnee and Shardy. But really, in having the space to go to the lecture, I was so inspired by him. And I live with this brother. You know, I get to speak to him every day, and Aseer is constantly divulging information, and I always feel really honored and blessed to you know, have an ear and be able to listen. And what was great about hearing him recently was that he always keeps the information very new to himself because he is constantly still reading and studying period. And because of that, I hear the freshness in his message and in connecting historical dots, because it grows. Like, the more he figures out, the more he realizes what he doesn't know and is able to go into those sections of his mind and connect certain principles. So what's been great as of late is to hear that, is to be on the journey of being with someone but not getting bored and listening to certain rhetoric that can be boring to people that have just memorized or listened to someone speak. And I almost, in listening to our great elders, like I said before, there's a part of you that does, the ego does want to be fed sometimes and get a little bit of appreciation. But, if my journey as a yogi and as a woman of God is to not allow my ego to be so out of whack that I feel like I've got to be included in all the fucking after-school games, then, what is all of the breathing and stretching and sweating through yoga actually for? If I'm just going to masturbate with energy and thinking that I'm doing something, you got to actually, put to practice what it is you preach. And I'm thankful that I've been doing so. I really want to take the opportunity to thank people for supporting us regardless of the non-contributions and regardless of how much, I know we put out. I always say that, there's so many people that we have attracted through the show that have said, hey, through watching, Hidden Colors, I was led to you. And, we weren't even in the movie. And there's still so much glory in that. And I want to say, to not anyone that created it, because I don't know exactly who was part of all the production in the background, but, it's almost like a blessing in disguise. But at the same token, if you're of the creator and you have been inspired by Aseer, give him credit and allow him to be a part of what it is you do. Because if you are doing things and speaking based on what you've heard him say, and you don't give the creator a platform to actually, just say, give thanks, for putting this person in our lives as well. It's not like he's got to be over 60 to get, credit and glory, but I be listening to certain people who really, I know, listen to what he says. And I want to say thank you for listening, even in the background, because if I'm not here to learn how to pray for those that consider themselves unworthy to be in the presence of the Most High, then that means they can't be around me, because I'm really striving to live that. And real talk, love everything that people throw and fling as dirt and figure out how to catch it and transmute it into something beautiful, because there is so much beauty and joy and love here. And if I focus on that, then that is what we will attract. And I have, and I want to thank those, there's a certain core group of supporters that definitely have been able to contribute, but, they're very minimal compared to how many people I see listening to the show, on a weekly basis. You get your little stat breakdown, and I'm like, wow, we have like over 5,000 listeners, and only about 20 people, contribute. And that's just not cool, man. You've got to, you want to receive, but you don't want to lower your spirit and entertain entities and energies that are just there to pimp and confuse the people. But you also want to say, come on, people, want more for yourselves. Choose a better lover, choose a better chef, choose a better, book to read than, the copycat rhetoric, real talk. Like, contribute $5. Even if you are, I don't get to see who's contributing the money. You don't have to put your name, you don't have to thing, but you should on some dues and, sending energy out to get. It would be nice to receive. And I'm in a space right now of reciprocity and knowing that we've done a lot of work, and the Creator is going to put us in the positions that we're supposed to be in to allow people to know that they can speak about their creative journey honestly and get somewhere in life. My whole purpose of doing music was to not be on some rapper shit, but was to have a platform to express what goes on in my life, and knowing that there's certain keys and gems that the Creator has allowed me to have the voice to speak through to do that. So, you're not going to listen to my music and not know who I am. I want you to listen to every song and be like, wow, that's what she believes in, that's who she is, that's her favorite, whatever. Like, you're supposed to listen to people's creative works and find out who they are in it. And if you don't see who they are in it, then it's obviously not their creation. And the one thing I did want to say is not like the movie ain't doing well because of Aseer, but I laugh at certain energetic obstacles people go through, and that's certain times when I go, wow, it's interesting that, by not paying homage, and nobody, nope, there's young people in it. There's people that are, below the age of 40 in it. And I always go, wow, if they can be in it, then what and who is in the decision-making of this person who really can't answer my questions have the aptitude to be in a platform to discuss. And it shouldn't be a popularity Hollywood show. So, I wanted to thank Crystal for keeping me in the know and allowing me to see what's being produced because, Aseer contributes a lot, and I don't need niggas to, stress him, and I don't want that platform. But if we're talking Moorish history, come on, y'all. Let's keep it real and know that there's certain elders that have learned from Aseer. And, we should be appreciative of that, elders, Yeah, it would have been nice to one day met Phil Valentine and him be like, wow, I was really inspired by y'all. Thank you so much for contributing. That's love and dedication to not only what the young ones, quote unquote, are doing, but you being able to free up and truly pass the baton of truth on to someone who's scholastically, able to be dexterous enough to really put it together. And that's what we're here to do. I want my son to be, wiser than his father, not because because that's his progeny, and that's what we're naturally here to do through time, is to grow and to expand and to evolve. But if our ancestors and the people that we consider our elders can't even, see who's producing great work because, I don't know, maybe they feel intimidated, maybe they don't want to be around someone that they can't control, I don't know, but, shout out to Phil because there is love there. I remember working with and for and around him back in 2000 when Sister Myra was alive, and I met her, teaching a yoga class, and she was one of the teachers in the program that taught, physical education to teachers that wanted to introduce new concepts to students. That's how I met Myra. And then, she was like, oh, word, no doubt. You look Cuban, Ray. We had a mad good connection. I started taking astrology classes with her, and then I introduced her to Aseer, and she was so blown away by his history, aptitude, and she was like, yo, have you heard of UCC? I have these forms that I want to fill out, but I don't know how to fill them out. And that's how I met Myra, and that's how I got cool in the sense of knowing Phil. But, it's like the same thing. Years later, I see our paperwork in many people's paperwork archives. And, yes, it's been posted, but, again, if you don't create your own, it's very difficult to act like you own shit. And I say that to say we're all here to help each other. If certain scholars that are skilled, like Brother Umar, it's like if you're in the Board of Ed, then work with people that are outside of it, and let's create something more beautiful rather than thinking that we only need to do it by ourselves. It was kind of like really refreshing to see the information presented, but at the same token, I was like, wow, it would have been really cool to have the brother in it because he would have put a whole nother spiritual spin on it, which is sometimes what I feel is lacking, is the spirit, I look at Aseer read, and it's totally different than when I read. And I have always been thankful to be in the honor of greatness and to not feel like I need to be jealous or envious. But, when you have a certain memory, you give thanks to being around people that can remember stuff. And you don't diss them and keep them out the cipher. You bring them in, and you create certain bridges so people can gain the wisdom that they want to gain, if that's what they want to do. But, it's what I always tell people. Don't complain about investing in people that you now feel are not returning your phone calls and not doing right by you. It's like they're not doing those things because you entrusted it to the wrong person that couldn't even answer questions because maybe you didn't want to do as much work, or whatever the case may be. He was easier on your ears. Whatever it is, it's very interesting that, people will complain about. It's like, don't complain about if you like junk food, then you're going to go to the store and buy Doritos and Cheetos. And if you want wholesome food, you're going to go and get pineapple and almonds. And the same can be applied to people. So I just want to thank everyone that really is in it for the real and doesn't need all the glory and doesn't equate spirituality to how much money they have in their pockets. Real talk. Because if we're at that point in this juncture in time, then a lot more prayer needs to be given and needs to be received, because it's not a competition, but a unification of souls and an alignment of spirits. But I, at the same token, in saying that, when my spirit isn't in alignment, it's just not there to happen. So I wish everyone that's on a Moorish conquest to do the knowledge from a place of truth and a place of love, and in that we'll connect. Word. Word. Thank you, y'all. I love everyone. Peace.
Peace. Peace to the Empress. D-E-10K. That's what it is. And like I said, we want to, you know, we always want to give respect where it's due, where respect is due, and it shouldn't be where people who are allegedly striving for the same thing get to a point where they can't work together yet. When it comes to exploitation, I don't care what color the person is. I'm not down with it. So once I know that that's what's going on, you know, I have to do what I need to do to protect myself and my family and the integrity of the work. Because I know in the end I'm going to be judged by what I put out and by what I said. So I can only go and vouch for me in that and present to the people a consistent view that has alternative possibilities. You understand? Like, I would consider myself a conservative when it comes to certain things, you know, yet I could see a liberal aspect to that as well. Therefore, people who exist in that world of, you know, liberal, ultra-conservative, conservative, blue state, red state, those type of gang members, those people are just cool. Those people are created, one second, those people are created at a time where I have to relate to them in that language. Yet, because I know what that means specifically, I've created a way of accepting for value, if you will, and consideration, whatever people's opinion is or whatever it is they want to say, in that choosing not to take it personal, yet at the same time acknowledge the fact that it's a consistent pattern. You know what I mean? Okay. Peace in Super Heru Radio.
Peace.
Peace, Queen. How you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
All right, I'm good. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I just want to say that to the listeners, I mean, y'all hear it every Monday. Aseer is always coming to us, bringing us something new, something fresh, something that we can actually use in our lives every day. You know, nothing is ever regurgitated. You know, so that's how you know it's real. So for everybody that's listening, you're welcome. For everybody that's listening, I mean, if you give 50 cents, that's something to contribute.
Every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps. You know, everybody needs to do this, because if I normally don't call in because I work third shift. So around the time that the show is going on, I'm getting ready to go to work at night. But today I wasn't going to work, so I was like, you know, let me call in and just big y'all up for everything that y'all do in the community. Also, I wanted to ask you about the A for V process. And actually what that is, what is it? Because a lot of people are getting strung up on it. You got people out here in the community.
Caught up in a negative way with it?
Yeah, you got people out here in the community telling people that, you can become a secure party, and, you can settle your debt because there is no money, there's no real money. I mean, we all know that, but you got to be able to be practical about it as well when you're using the application. Like, you can't just go out here and listen. If somebody is just always selling you, real estate, they're a real estate agent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what that doesn't mean.
If somebody is always selling you on the next big thing, that's what I really appreciate about you, because you're not selling the bullshit-ass water that don't have, real gold in it. You're not with the gimmicks. It's so many gimmicks, and brothers and sisters, y'all really need to evaluate everything that you hear, and don't fall victim of the bullshit, because it is actual bullshit. I mean, just ask yourself, is this really what this person is saying? Is this, is it true? Like, I mean, we all out here, and we hungry. So a lot of times we just gonna fall for anything and everything.
Right.
But instead of taking that route, just ask yourself on a simple level, like, does this make sense? If it doesn't make sense, then it can't be real.
Exactly.
Flat out, it can't be real.
Exactly. But that's too simple. Like, what I'm starting to realize is that every one of us represents something towards the greater species mind pattern. And I'm starting to associate that species mind pattern with God, kind of, but not like the ultimate, like almost like the passive God that allows everything to exist, or maybe the passive nature of God that allows everything to kind of exist. You know what I mean? Because God's the only thing that don't ask really for nothing. And as much as we are gods and goddesses on earth, we still have to ask of sunlight, of air, of water, to exist. So nobody's that sovereign that they don't need that yet. The only people that try to get like that are like the vampiric type people who subsist on other people's experiences, So I'm starting to think that just as there's a light side of this, there's a darker side of this, that both are striving to kind of find a balance with before either one of us can or any of us can fully get it to the tipping point where everybody's like, okay, this is what it is. Because there's a whole section of the black community at large that don't even know we exist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They don't even know, like, we into metaphysics and none of that. Like, there's like the whole Tyler Perry type crowd, some type of black people, they don't even know, man.
Right.
They don't even know. So there's a point where when they see us, they get interested or automatically turned off. But in that's where the different personalities or polarities come in terms of like how I may disattain something, and then how somebody else who allegedly does, lecturing or whatever may do, So there's a place, like I said, for everybody. It's just that when people try to purposely exploit you, you got to stand up. You can't, let them do that. And when you can be somewhat successful outside of that, and, they feel, entitled, like a pimp, like I made
and
you.
That's exactly
you know what,
what it is.
Like it's really, really, and then that in itself, brings up all other types of stuff that really has nothing to do with me, but may
Right.
just be more of what I represent, my appearance, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Because I don't wear makeup. I don't wear, you know what I'm saying? But people have sought it necessary to talk about like my physical appearance, but these are like men. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it brings up all of this other stuff, you see what I'm saying, that has really nothing to do really with me, more about to do with, you know, their insecurities, things like that. So, again, and not taking it personal.
Right. And I mean,
So
really, that's all we can do is not take it personal, you know, and at the same time.
But it gets to a point, you know what I mean, at the same time where, you know, you're still a man. So,
right.
you know, like I said, man, the righteous will always burn those in their own iniquity. You know what I mean? So it's all good with that. But I thank you for calling, Queen, and dropping that. I wanted to get to somebody else as well.
No doubt. Anytime.
Keep going.
All right.
But I appreciate it, really, for real. Also coming all the way out to check us at the Forbidden Planet. That was really dope.
No doubt.
You know, so thank you,
All right,
Queen.
peace to you and the family.
Peace to you, too. Okay. (512) on Super Heru Radio.
Islam, Screen Sheet, Glass Cover. How you doing, King?
Hey, brother, how you doing, man?
I'm well, Ma. Peace to you and your queen and your family. I just wanted to say, man, I really appreciate everything that you've been doing throughout the years, man. And, you know, I'm more so, especially now with as much as my eyes are open, I'm glad that you're not one of those syndicate type Moors, if you know what I mean, because it's a lot of them blue types running around.
You know what I mean?
And,
they be bugging.
Yeah, they remind me of them hat-wearing agents in the Adjustment Bureau, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's a lot of them.
Yes.
And ever since that brother Steve Coakley, man, you know what I'm saying, got off, man, it's just like, you know, I realized that a lot of these cats, man, they really ain't down for this thing. They ain't really in it.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? And they don't want to deal with real people because, I mean, I've traveled throughout the country more and tried to work with different ones, but, you know, like I said, real recognize real.
Yourself.
Yeah.
See for yourself.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody can tell you nothing.
Yeah, I went to Georgia, man, and I mean, I seen sniper towers in the grocery store parking lots. I'm like, you guys don't think there's something wrong with this?
Yeah,
you
ain't nobody talking about that, though. Ain't nobody talking about all elections in Atlanta. Ain't nobody talking about that, though.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really sad, you know, but at the same time, I really appreciate ones like yourself because, you know, I look at ones like yourself and myself as being the last of the freedom fighters, if you will, because there's a lot of clowns out here. There's a lot of punks, I'm just going to say it like that are out here trying to promote this and promote that, but they ain't talking about solutions. They just talking doomsday, man. You know what I'm saying? They down with that.
Yeah, talking about a check.
Yeah, man. They down with that whole other agenda.
I'm down with everybody to get paid. That's the whole thing, man. Everybody can get money. That's the whole thing. It's just that they are looking at it from the opposite end of a funnel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They looking at it and they trying to like fit all of this shit into this one little hole, which again is representation of what it is that they are locked into, which is that whole, you know, tight, you know, hole reminiscent of, you know, the Luciferian agenda. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which again is why that hole is seen as God and the vagina is seen as the devil. Because it's their system. They talk about their whole, you know, fraternity, liberty, you know, masonry, liberty, fraternity, or whatever. That is the symbol of the three-headed God in their system, in which Lucifer is God, Jesus plays the role of Judas, and God plays the role of the devil. This is how they have flipped their whole shit. So because this whole Crowley thing has become like big, you know what I mean, and they have now like aspects of the global populace has adopted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just gonna just be an open, like you're gonna see like the whole Church of Satan thing be seen like the way you'll see like Scientology. You know, it's like that now, but it's gonna go fully mainstream once, you know, they get their first all satanic network, things like that. Like this is the thing that they're gonna push for. So in a world like that, if you're not a black Luciferian,
I'm telling you, man.
Somebody else.
I see like so much going on out here, and I mean, like your queen was saying too, man. You know, a lot of them contemporaries, man. I mean, you know, I listen to a lot of different, you know what I'm saying, brothers and sisters that be dropping jewels, but you know, low key, man, a lot of them cats is full of it, and they don't come how you be coming, because me and a lot of my sheiks more so prefer to listen to you and have advanced in our own understandings from listening to ones like yourself, because you keep it 100.
Which is what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
We're supposed to do that. You know what I mean?
And I mean,
like
it's... No, go ahead, Mark.
No, that's what I'm saying, God. We supposed to do that. We're supposed to be able to inspire each other to greater heights. But because Western society has created a term called competition, you know what I'm saying? It becomes a company, which again comes from company, which it becomes now a unified agenda of a specific team instead of a companion. See what I'm saying? Which is somebody that's there to help you. You know what I mean? So they're applying a cathode system with an anode face. Like with the president. They came with him. They used left wing cover for right wing advance. You see what I'm saying? We're going to use the left wing as him being a liberal, but really he's backed by all the niggas with the money, which is not even the Republicans, the secret government, the secret president. You know what I mean? So secret president, they would take what do it, and then they, you know what I mean? They flip it.
Right. I mean, I had to watch a old school joint, you know what I'm saying, not too long ago, and it really made me see what's going on right now. You remember that John Carpenter joint called They Live?
They Live,
that's
with the glasses.
That's like the era we in right now, man. You know, you're going to have to really go underground with this thing, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what it is. You got to come with different forms. You got to be able to stick and move. Like, okay, until niggas is ready to go hard with actual conventional means, that's not going to work, because most of these niggas is on the table anyway. So if we accept that, then all you can do is do something that can promote you or promote the I don't want to use the term ideology, but let's say the concept of what we are as a people in a traditional manner that allows us to come up. The same way Hebrew National created a damn hot dog that every Jew in the world can eat is the same way we could come up with a damn hot dog or Moorish hot dog that everybody like a hot dog get, and that become the biggest hot dog ever because it's a more on the cover. Like somebody can do that. I don't have the time to do that. Hopefully I got the money to invest in somebody who want to do that. But that's just an example of how other ethnic groups use the stereotype of themselves that was created in the white caste system, but then also the industrious means to turn that into some sort of corporation that they could make money from to help their community come up. We're the only community that don't support each other financially.
Right.
You know?
It's like everybody don't trust everybody, but they're willing to go spend their money with all of the people that's contributing to our downfall. You know what I'm saying?
But if you think about it, everything that we grow up in the hood playing with each other, and then once we go to school and get quote-unquote integrated, when we start to grow up and hang out, those of us that have, let's say, a quote-unquote upper middle class and middle class education start to hang out in areas that are not necessarily in the hood. The quote-unquote village or whatever else or whatever community they came out of. And then they people that, and then they take those ideas back to the hood, feel almost disgusted by how black people treat each other, and then choose to live this whole alternate life in this other place when it's set up for you to do that. Whereas the white person who lived in that place now chooses to move into the same hood that the black person moved out of to now have the real experience because they know that their life ain't worth shit.
Right.
Because their money ain't attached to nothing spiritual and nothing with a soul. Because their daddy and their mommy joined up with the quarter owls or the order of the peacock and did whatever rituals they needed to do to get their money. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You're absolutely right, man. I mean, that's why I said, man, I haven't been able to call in as much as I would like to because I've been, busy trying to get myself together and getting together all my sheiks, man. We trying to bring ones back to life out here, man, and you know what I'm saying, in the real world like yourself. So
save your energy for the ones that want it, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I don't have to cut a lot of vampires off, man, but they out here.
How to do it, bro.
But I just want to say,
go out and fresh.
Peace and love
keep
to
a
you,
dandelion here and there, but other than that,
definitely,
you could use that. Anything else will strangle your roses.
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, man. I just wanted to extend my 5 to you and your queen and your children, man, and keep doing what you're doing, B. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, B. I appreciate it, King. I'll speak to you soon, man. Hit me up on the email. I'll do the same.
Yes, sir. Peace and love, man.
Peace. Okay. Go to 215. Super Heru Radio.
Nah, never said nothing specific. No said, it's crazy. Why Blurk always lie? Like, but Blurk don't know what Dean had. This nigga on the speakerphone called him up on speakerphone, and it's wild crazy. Like, why Blurk always lie? So then I said again, hold on, I'm gonna cut you off and bring it all the way out, man. Man, motherfucker said that you called TJ a clown, man. Dean called you and had T on the phone, basically. And that's what Nick don't want to say. I don't know if he thinks it's going to start trouble. I'm not going to sit here and battle around with this shit. Cause this shit, how long has this been going on that I don't know about? This shit just popped up right now. TJ not even mad about this shit. He's just like, it's crazy. He was like, but then he was like, and then in the same breath, I thought we all getting the fuck out.
Hello?
All right, bro.
Y'all get out? You get out?
It's interesting. Maybe the singles are crossed. Let's see. 347. You Super Heru Radio?
Good, Aseer?
Peace, Queen. How you doing?
Hey, peace. What's up? I'm good. It's good to hear from your queen. Peace to Selena, your baby.
Thank you, Queen.
And all the listeners.
You as well, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm just calling basically to make a comment real quick. What Selena said was absolutely correct. I mean, you bring spirituality.
Thank you.
Like no one.
Thank you, Queen.
Because, you do. And you do deserve props, but I hate to use this term, but you're kind of the underdog right now, and you're not getting the accolades that you deserve on a larger scale because this so-called conscious community, because a lot of people are conscious, but they're not cognizant. And I know you spoke about that recently, and their heart is not in it. They're not spiritual, and they're just about the money. They're capitalists, and they'll capitalize on anything. And there's a shit storm coming because people are going to realize that you're phony. People are going to realize that you're fake and you're out for the money. And it's going to be a shit storm like with everything else. And it's just not meant for you and your family to be a part of that.
You're right.
So right now, you're doing what you're doing. And it's great that you're on the side. You get what I'm saying? Because
yes, ma'am.
a lot of these people I spoke to, a couple of them I spoke to personally. I spoke to them on the phone or whatnot, and they're not as humble as they are when they're on video or when they're out in public. You get what I'm saying? And they're very nasty. Mm-hmm. And they're nasty to women, but when they're on the DVDs and whatnot, oh, I love you, queen, and this and that and the third.
Oh, yeah, you know.
And then when the queen's talking to them, you get what I'm saying? She gets an attitude and a hate. So, you know, we're our community is sick, and sickness is going to be in everything.
Why do you think that is?
You know what? And people are going to say, oh, this is corny. This is just, you know, the rhetoric. But I'm just going to keep it real. This is where I was a few years ago. And I know most of the women that I grew up with and most of the women that I'm related to were molested and raped. Mm-hmm. A lot of the boys that I grew up with were molested by their fathers, grandfathers. You get what I'm saying? I was molested by my stepfather. And a lot of us don't deal with that. And a lot of us don't know how to process and deal with it. You get what I'm saying? The abuse.
Yes, I do.
And we have very overbearing, high-strung, misled, misguided women raising us by themselves.
Yes.
And that it's a generation of craziness.
Yes, it is.
You understand what I'm saying? Where women with mental illness are trying to raise a family alone. I know I came from that. And
me too.
It's just by the grace of the Creator that I'm even here speaking to you now, and I have sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes I amaze myself, like, how the hell? You get what I'm saying? No alcoholism, no drug addiction, and I have my faculties.
Yes.
And a lot of us don't have that, and because we didn't get the attention.
That was a choice.
Right.
You think that was a choice you made, though? You think that was
It was a personal choice because I said, you know what? I don't like the way I feel, and I don't like being angry all the time. At 14, I had surgery on my breast because I was growing cysts as my breasts were growing from holding in anger and pain. Like, this is real.
Yeah, this
being
is real.
sick all the time. So I had to let that go in order to just survive.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? In order to survive. And all of these things changed once I started I even sought counseling for 2 years. And I was fortunate enough, because I'm not advocating that either, but I was fortunate enough to find a sister, a real sister that I can talk to. And she said, you know, you have a reason to be angry. You have a reason to be hurt. And I was shocked. Because I was always told to sweep it under the rug and stop whining, be strong. Only weak people go to counseling. Only weak people don't get over this. But that's trauma.
Yes, it is.
That is trauma.
And it's
you understand what I'm saying? And I grew up, and I can't believe I'm sharing this on, but these things happened to me to the point where my mother didn't want to face what I was telling her, so I had to record my stepfather admitting what he did.
Oh my God!
This is how you understand what I'm saying. This is what.
100. Damn, you.
I'm keeping
you went
it real.
all the way in.
Yes, because this is what we're dealing with. You know, I grew up with somebody whose grandfather repeatedly raped him. You know, his grandfather, his mother's father repeatedly raped. Like, this is what we're going through.
Yo. That's that Freemason shit, yo. That's what I'm telling you, son.
I understand. This I know.
It's that
and
shit,
it's deep,
man.
But we don't want to admit it.
Has been underlined. That's been a scab on the black community, on the world community for about 2,000 years now. The shit got. When I say it got to go, I'm not talking about masonry. I'm not talking about, you know what I'm saying?
No, I know what you're right.
Of taking the base metal to gold. I'm talking about this whole gay, westernized, European, Scottish Rite, Prince Hall bullshit, blue large shit that these niggas think they doing that's giving them power, and all it's doing is making them more
and it's
emotional.
Trendy. It's like, oh, being a Satanist is sexy now. It's sexy, it's trendy, it's something new. It's like, okay, but it is what it is. Like, yuppies are still yuppies at the end of the day. Even if you call them hipsters, they're still yuppies.
Man. Yo, they
you know what I'm saying?
They the illest Satanists. They the niggas that's doing all the crazy shit.
And they're all up in
their regular lives. Them niggas ain't trying to tell everybody they into that shit.
Nope.
They keeping their money, man.
And
so
I put it out there.
I know these niggas is playing.
Right. And this is why I put it out there in hopes to help other people, women and men, because I used to carry a lot of shame with that, and I shouldn't be ashamed. Right. Don't be ashamed that you need to seek, please. However you do it, whoever you talk to, you need to seek help, and you need to talk about it and get it off your chest, and you also need to confront, if possible, you need to confront the person who did these things to you, or, you know, confront the person who allowed these things to happen to you, because it's too many of us have this story. Why does everyone I know have this story?
Exactly. And it not be a pattern, and it not be something that's cyclical.
And it's a coincidence. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's like everybody right now acting like crack didn't exist. You know what I mean? Like everybody know what crack did to the black community.
Right.
So we talking about crack that's been going on since we left Kemet. You understand? This has been going on from the sacrifice of Egypt firstborn. After every baby I had, blessed to death, there was a baby that passed before the one that actually came. You know what I'm saying? And that's not no coincidence. Because the same thing happened to my grandpa. So I know that, and again, that nigga was the one who founded the first Elks Lodge in Brooklyn. He was like one of the first black Elks in history. Blessed to death. So they called him King Arthur. So this dude set up something that, again, in doing so, created a certain aspect for me to be able to get the knowledge in my time, but at the same time, look at the cost. You know what I'm saying? And the cost that is taken on us has wiped out, like I said, our generation done. You know what I'm saying? These niggas, most of them are sold out or have convinced themselves that they doing the work.
And they want to get on like a rapper. You know, they all like, you know, they just want to get on, and they just want the attention, and they want the, you know, they want to be rock stars. And then you can see it.
Get on.
They just want to get on. You get what I'm saying? It's like, it's real corny, and you can see, like, but I understand people that's sick. And one thing about black people, this is why they call us minorities, and you already know, you spoke about this, because you think like a child. And, you know, they just want something or someone to believe in. You know, they want to be that Jesus freak. They want to, you know, you get what I'm saying? For anybody that come in and say they're about God, they believe it.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of these people just want to be rock stars. They're no different than the preachers and the priests.
No.
And you're falling for it. You have to stand on your own.
Not.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I feel like now is the time, this is their time to rule.
Right.
That's why they going so hard in the paint, because they know that they only got a certain amount of time before it's done. All the records they make is all about that. You know, end of the world, end of time, end of the club. Like, it's pretty much a wrap.
And
so
it's
people
good
like
that
us,
this shows the spiritual space that you're in, because this is the positive aspect of it. You get what I'm saying? Because you're not in that space with them. You don't belong in that space with them, because they're not on the same playing field. Like you said, they're part of the rift. That's what, you know what I'm saying? You're right.
But you see what I'm saying? So what that would then mean would be, and I'm using me as an example for you as well as other people in similar situations, that would mean that in order for me to make shit cool, I would have to allow people that I know who have prayed for my downfall and have purposely put things out there to defame my character, after coming to my home, my wife feeding them, you know, giving them a place to stay when they had no place to stay, things like that. That would mean that I would have to allow these people back around me, my wife, and my son, knowing what I know. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that, because then if I did, then that means that I condone, right?
And you're a part of it.
That happened, right?
Exactly. You'll be a part of that weave, and you don't want to be a part of that tapestry at all.
Right. And I don't want to be a part of that tapestry. You know what I'm saying? And that's really the problem. It's not anything really other than that, because, you know, me as a man, I reached out to all these people individually and try to keep it calm. But when it became a situation where it was brought to like the community, then it was like, oh wow, okay, well, again, I got to say something. But then doing that allowed that energy to pass and allowed this energy to come through, in which now you as the queen have now allowed other people to do the knowledge, again, that this all really is coming from some sort of abuse.
And that's why I
keep...
in
you, but in me, because it happened to me too. You know, being locked in the closet. And then, you know, not eating my food because I felt like they was putting shit in it, things like that.
See?
And these is people that we love, like people we grew up with. So we all scarred from this whole MK and Naomi program and shit.
But the difference is you didn't want to continue that. It was something in you already. It was something in me already. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
We were already pre-programmed when we came here. Exactly. And a lot of people don't have that. You understand? Most people don't have that. And you're not wrong when you say it. It is a part of the abuse, and it also is a part that people want to say, oh, no, it's not this too. It's the perming of the hair, the abuse.
Yeah, G. It is that, yo.
The
really
just lax, you know, ideals when it comes to sexuality and the things that we, you know, like everything goes. People are too lax with a lot of things.
Yes.
The fillings in the teeth, the food, you know what I'm saying? Everything is just nothing. We're inundated with poison. Everything is poison.
Yeah.
And the abuse on top of it makes it worse. So I just wanted to put that out there because, you know, when a brother says it, you're wrong. You know, you're just hating or, you know, you don't like women. But I'm a black woman. I'm a sister too.
It's like, oh, you hate black women.
No,
like, nah,
I'm a sister.
I hate that.
100%. Mama and daddy. Grandparents and all, I'm a sister, and I'm telling you, black women, you are strong. I love you. I'm a sister myself, but you are not the backbone of the community. A lot of you are sick. You made a lot of mistakes. You get what I'm saying? And it's us raising the children mostly. You have to look in the mirror and you have to stop. They're covering it up. That's what the weave and the makeup is about. It's a cover-up. Stop being phony.
Yes, it's a
look in the mirror. Deal with your pain before it's too late, because you're hurting your children. You're actually killing your children. And when I looked at my children saved my life. They humbled me. So the day when, I don't remember which show it was a few shows back, you was like, having a cat humble me. You know, having a pet humbles you. And it's the truth. My children, my 3 sons humbled me. And I said, I do not want to be that parent. I want to have a relationship with my children. I don't just want to keep them alive. Feeding them and sending them to school is nothing. It's important, you know, to educate. It's important to teach. It's important.
See, we as the men should be able to build schools for you to send your children to. We've got to be the ones to build the schools to do that, to teach your children trade, so that way they can go out and be,
but we're just in survival
mode. In the world for our
Keeping
community.
them alive ain't enough, sisters.
No,
it's not. I have an actual relationship with my children where they talk to me, and we, you know, I keep it 100 with them. They know everything that happened with me. I told them. And I chose not to date or to bring any men around my children while I'm raising them, because I don't want to take that risk of just, you get what I'm saying? So I stay to myself. And my children, my sons, I have 3 sons, they respect me for that. And I tell them that I love them every day, and they return it, and they understand that. And it's worth it. Man. Yeah, and this is what we have to do.
Women are not like
it's not
that
about, you
women
gotta
be
stop
purposely, like my baby mom's, my elder son's mom, she used to like, she used to like purposely like go on trips with dudes. Just to get me to wild out on her.
Right.
You know what I mean, with my son. Just to get me to wild out on her, so that way I would back up the lie she was saying on the court paper. How I know it also is an agenda is the fact that most of these relationships get broke up after the baby comes. So it's like as soon as the baby comes, something happen. And then like either the dude split or the woman split, or the dude can't be there because the woman, the baby moms are now shacked up with the moms, and now the moms is in the baby mom's head to kick the man
because
out.
We're too young and we're too messed up.
Yeah,
we're too young when we get into these relationships most of the time, and we're just two miserable people.
Community. This is that whole
we're just 2 miserable people coming together in the night, and something comes from that. You get what I'm saying? A child comes out of that, and that's what it is. I had to look in the mirror and take accountability, because that's what we lack, accountability, you know. I had to look in the mirror and just take responsibility for myself and say, okay, why am I making these decisions? Why am I bringing these people in my life? Why am I doing this? Because if you stay mad at other people and blame them, look at yourself. Forget them.
That's what I'm saying. I don't blame these people. You can't blame You can't blame the water for getting you wet.
Right.
You can't blame the fire for burning you. You know what I'm saying? You can only deal with it. So that's what I mean with you, with the work that we're striving to do in this world. the more we consolidate it and keep it as pure as possible by, allowing everybody to be what they're going to be, prove themselves to be that, we are doing the work itself, because we're not here to judge nobody. We just here to just do what we're supposed to do.
And stay sharp. And I'm glad you're staying sharp and you're still doing the work, because you're going to be needed soon. But right now, the shitstorm is a-coming. It's a-coming. You don't want to even be in that direction.
You're
so
right.
I'm just
I'm not even down with that.
Right.
Well,
I just wanted to tell you that.
Indeed. So thank you for calling, Queen.
No doubt. And I love you. I love Selena and the baby. Keep doing what y'all doing. It was great hearing her voice. And you're a beautiful person, and bless you.
Indeed.
Okay,
Peace,
babe. Good night.
Peace to all the original black women, original Asiatic black women who are striving to be as natural as they can be amongst their sisters who have sold their soul to this materialistic degradation that we call Western society that is rapidly folding in on itself. Peace to all the original Asiatic black men that's striving to be there for their children, even though they can't, because, they're dealing with the devil in the form of their baby moms and the child support situations. Definitely there's going to be an outcome for you. Get a statue or whatever of a Chosei, Ochsii, I believe, a Chosei. And when you bring him into your home, you ask him to come into your home and stay with you, so you never have to live with him in his home, because he rules over the jailhouse and stuff like that. Give him some grapes, some rum sometimes, keep you straight. Because again, it's not the statue, it's the actual aspect of manifesting the energy of creating the space for this energy to exist in your life. Doing things in a psychomythological way allows you to incorporate a greater aesthetic of spirituality into your life, as quoted by Dr. Pascal Beverly Randolph, bless the dead, somebody who I consider a spiritual father, who I wrote about in my book, The Dark Scope of 18, the world's most dangerous comic book novel. You can purchase now at www.thedarkscope418.com. We also have a soundtrack connected to that. Pretty soon we'll have some T-shirts and statuettes and things like that, so we can get this ball rolling. Also, thank you, BMG Nation, for holding us down in New York, as well as Cornerstone, as well as Forbidden Planet, Bulletproof Comics, Barnes & Nobles on Court Street. Thanks for holding us down and creating a positive space, as well as Happy Yoga Harlem, Sister Siri Rishi. Thank you for donating the space so we could do the lecture, Cloaks and Daggers, How to Protect Oneself from the Rise of Black Luciferians in the conscious community. You can get it at www.aseer.com. You can also check out www.blackmambaworkouts.com, as well as www.cookingmorewithless.com. To check out CE10K, that's Selena, 10,000 years, her work, her and more. So, again, as we wind down to the last couple of minutes, we want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we appreciate any donations that you can send in the form of currency. It definitely helps us get more knowledgeable products out to you that is consistent and untampered with, or as tamper-free as possible, because, still dealing with U.S. printing companies. So, in between all of that, I definitely want to say peace to the ancestors and holding us down. If you want to make a donation to our PayPal account, you can go to dukeoftiers@gmail.com. That's dukeoftears@gmail.com. Or if you want to send us a letter or whatever, man, you can mail it to Morally Correct Mediums, Suite 4783, Miami Beach, Florida, 33141. So, yeah, it's pretty much about the time. Look out for those sinkholes. For those people that have ham radios, you can check out the megahertz. You can go to 435 megahertz, see if anything beyond there can come up with, and see if you catch any of these numbers. There are number station groups, I think, online who focus on them. Also, due to a lot of the ionization of the atmosphere due to the radioactive waste of the Japan Fukushima nuclear reactor coming over from Japan and hitting the California shores, it's affecting some of the marijuana crops that they had over there. So you might want to watch out for radioactive marijuana. For people who live in California, I would definitely look to getting small Geiger counters. A Geiger counter is something that allows you to peak radioactive radiation and what is suitable for you to be around. So you might want to get that in any type of thing that has lanolin in it. A lot of the artifacts in the water, especially on the beaches, that's floating up, I think, around the Malibu section, which is funny due to the satanic history of Malibu as a community, but because a lot of the sludge and stuff is floating up around those areas, you should watch out, you know what I mean? There's ways you can create a radioactive proof makeshift suit, you know what I mean? But, you know, look out. But we appreciate all the support on the book, The Dark Scope 418, the world's most dangerous comic book novel. I'm going through it now to get some of the first printing corrections in, as well as doing a colored hard copy version, which will have a little bit more of the story, some of the stuff I couldn't put in the first version. So you might definitely want to check that out as well. But again, I appreciate all the support. I appreciate Afrofuturism. Big up Octavia Butler. Big up the book Dark Matters. Big up all of the so-called black comic creators and people who are independently putting out positive knowledge and imagery of our people. We desperately need it now. So any way that you can bang on this devil is great. So again, original people, keep up the good work. We're going to strive to have Super Heru Radio on next Monday. And we definitely, again, big up everybody else, man. I really appreciate the support and everybody who has ordered from us in the past. We really appreciate it. And now that we're back home, we're getting a lot of the ones we could mail off while we were on tour in New York. So we definitely want to say peace, love, and light to all. Look out for DS 418, the soundtrack mixtape album, as well as the Dark Scope 418, the world's most dangerous comic book novel, www.darkscope418.com, as well as you. Thank you, Super Heru Radio, as well as Super Heru Ruians, for being a consistent aspect of our lives. And continue the great work, man. So, inshallah, anybody wants to hit me up, you can do so at houseofl@hotmail.com. That's HOUSCOFEL@hotmail.com. And inshallah, we'll speak soon. Peace.